You're still watching Prime Morning. My name is Roslyn Fairley. It's time for us to delve into what the newspapers have for us. The segment is a news flash segment. My guest, one, has come in early. He doesn't usually come in early, so today I must say probably I'll buy him a bold Kusiani Meko to say thank you for coming in early. Good morning, Richard Manurubi.
Good morning.
How are you?
Yeah, I'm super. I'm good. By the grace of Almighty God, the most mightier and the superior of the Lord, alhamdulillah, I'm doing well.
Amen.
Yes.
Is it because of the budget that you woke up very early to come in?
Yeah, but I haven't slept the whole night. I was going through the budgets. As empty as it is, I needed to look for the loopholes and then make sure maybe somewhere along the debate we can advise the finance minister very well. So the whole night I've been up. So I have to wake up very early. When I come in, I heard Menasa snoring at his door. I just parked at the back of his door because he was so disappointed. So you have to sleep because you have nothing to say today.
How do you stay up all night for an empty budget? Quote unquote, you claim empty.
Yes. You see,
if it's empty, you don't stay up.
When you think there's a hope for Ghanaians, and when you think that in the next 15 months, they're going to take over a government that will leave a responsible legacy and property for the state, a government that will think that in a few days will have sustained the injury time for his people. And then you realize that the budget has come. Yesterday I was in Parliament around 9 a.m.
Okay.
And then till 3, he finished the budget around 3:30. So you can imagine the stress we went through yesterday. And then it's a whole lot of things we have to talk about. So it's been very stressful. By the grace of God, alhamdulillah, God will make a way because the big push that is coming there.
God always makes a way.
Economy that is coming, we will really build the economy and a robust economy we want.
Okay.
But also, it's actually John Dramani Mama says good morning to you.
Okay. Please, next time, bring brown envelope. We start off with what is brown envelope? Why we don't have envelopes called brown?
The one the president took at his residence.
Who took at what? They sell brown envelopes on the road.
Oh, so you want a brown envelope?
Yes,
okay,
that's all I said. Ghanaian
I...
Times newspaper. Let me start reading the newspapers and then Manasseh Atabuahin can join us. The Ghanaian Times newspaper says 2024 budget businesses to benefit from tax reliefs. When you read this, you get very excited, but then you have to know that you have to read page 12 to know that it's not all businesses, but some businesses to benefit from tax reliefs. So you might be in a different business sector and think that you also benefit from the tax relief. No, you won't. It's not all businesses. Presentation of 2024 budget. That is the banner headline. Government to spend 226.7 billion Ghana cedis next year to maintain macroeconomic stability and also to create jobs. Communities affected by Akosombo Dam spillage to benefit from 220 million Ghana cedis government relief support. And also, President receives MRE result on Ninahin block. That will be all for the Ghanaian Times newspaper. Most of the newspapers are definitely carrying the budget from yesterday, which was read by the Finance Minister, Ken Ofori-Atta. Business Finder newspaper is the next newspaper. The Business Finder. Government targets 2.8% growth for 2024 by spending 226.7 billion Ghana cedis to accrue 61.9 billion Ghana cedis deficit. Government invested 32.7 billion Ghana cedis to keep lights on, says the Finance Minister. Improve infrastructure to boost African trade. And this is coming from Mr. Wamkele Mene. And that'll be all for the Business Finder newspaper. The next newspaper happens to be the Daily Statesman newspaper. And the Daily Statesman says, we are back on track. Government presents Nkonim budget for stability and growth. Harmonized prospectus for SHS freshers in all schools. Dr. Zakaria elected committee chair of AUC's Interfaith Dialogue Forum 2023. And Dr. Addison, ethics in banking sector must be strengthened. That'll be all for the Daily Statesman newspaper. The Daily Graphic newspaper is my next newspaper. 2024 budget. Tax cuts outlined to spur growth. Government allocates 220 million Ghana cedis for dam spillage victims. Budget statement empty, says the minority, and I know this is what Richard Manurubi will be speaking of. However, we know that Manasseh Atabuahin will make sure he defends the budget with his blood. The Daily Guide newspaper, the last newspaper we are reading, major facelift for Tema Port. 220 million Ghana cedis allocated for Akosombo Dam spillage. Economy to hit 1 trillion Ghana cedis, says Ofori Atta, that's the finance minister. Government approves 23% base pay increment for workers and stop religious politics. That'll be all for the Daily Guide. Let me see if there's some entertainment stories here. Yes, there is. I lost count of women I slept with, says Don Little. Wow. What a shock. I'll continue. Will Smith's rep denies sex allegations, and family fight over Mr. Ibu's donations. Hey, Africa. You think it's only Ghana? It's not just Ghana. It is the whole of Africa. Anyway, that'll be all for the Daily Guide newspaper. So, like I said earlier, my guests are here. I've already introduced Richard Manuribi, who is representing the NDC. Now representing the MPP this morning is Manasseh Atabuahin. Hello, Manasseh.
Hi, Rosalind.
You look fantastic.
You look great, like always. Apologies for coming in late, anyway.
Oh, that's okay. You hardly are late, so when you are late, we'll pardon you.
Yes, but to be fair, Richard has been coming quite early of late, so I think that's okay. At first, he used to come very late. So, yeah.
Okay, that's great. But why are you both in dark colors today? What's going on?
You know, today is the final funeral right of the late former First Lady.
Oh, yes, it's true. It's true.
And they've extended the invitation to the NDC and His Excellency John Dramani Mahama. You know, today is supposed to be a clean-up exercise.
Yes, it is.
But because of the funeral, being patriotic and democratic people, we decided to postpone it to 23rd of this month so that we can go to the State House and then mourn with the late President and our mother who has passed. That is why you see the NDC is always in back. Like, we don't do political, we build a nation together. As we want to build a Ghana we want together.
Okay, all right. I don't know what to say, but we'll continue. Today we'll have an economist also join us, Dr. Daniel Amate, a name. He will join us via Zoom to share his opinion. Manasseh speaks on economy.
Yeah, okay. And finance. So it's just like Kano Forata is here today. It's a replicate of Kano Forata.
When we hear his submission, we'll know.
Oh, no, absolutely.
And the good works he has done.
He's the government spokesperson on economy and finance.
Okay.
And yesterday the budget was read. You called
of course.
Who speaks at the presidency on economic and finance?
So the time will come for him to make his submission.
Of course.
And in fact, he's been a PhD student on economics and finance.
Okay, so
I don't know why Richard is so much interested. Why are you so excited today?
Zoom this morning for us to have a conversation, for him to explain to us, to the layman out there, what this whole budget is. There are some people out there who are very confused, trust me. Some are saying it was read in technical terms, so saying, don't worry at all. This economist will join us to explain to us what it really means for us coming into 2024. What are we to expect in the year 2024? Whether the economy is going to bounce back. Like I said, some of the portals reported that taxes are off businesses, but it's not off all businesses. So this economist will explain everything to us. And so welcome once again, gentlemen.
Thank you.
And you are poised to definitely talk about what is happening.
I was surprised to hear Richard make some untrue statements that the budget indeed is empty. Something that is empty and you are using your entire night to read it. You are just contradicting yourself, and you and I are aware of the goodies, the number of goodies that are enshrined in the budget. We will come to that.
Okay.
You see, we caught the NDC off guard. They were expecting government to introduce new taxes. They were expecting government not to make provision for the critical needs of Ghanaians as it relates to even the La General Hospital and even those who have been affected by the Akosombo Dam spillage. And so they are just dumbfounded, and they have nothing more to do than to go about their usual politics. And what is even more troubling for them is the agreement government has had with the Ghanaian people, especially the public sector workers, as we've been able to increase their base pay, by some 23% for the first 6 months of next year and 25% for the other 6 months of next year. And so they are just dumbfounded, and beyond the usual politics, they know deep down within themselves that this budget indeed is worth the name Nkunim or victory budget because of what is stipulated in there.
Okay, we'll talk about this 25% maybe later, because like you're saying, you know, yes, salaries will be increased next year, 25%. But on the other hand, these people are saying the 25 is not enough. So we'll talk about that. But Richard, let me take your, you know, your impression on
But the issue, he came to present his budget.
See,
no.
So yesterday,
Richard,
I'm not saying no,
let me ask my question.
Of course.
What is your impression, your general impression on the budget that was read yesterday by the finance minister?
Rosen, let me say good morning to you, and then good morning to your cherished viewers and listeners. And good morning to my brother Manasseh, who Nanado called early this morning to come and defend the budget, and Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia called him to come and defend the undefendable. But I hope and pray that may Almighty God guide you for your lives. And then let me say good morning to the good people of Nkwanta South Constituency and President John Dramani Mahama and the NDC as whole. Rosalie, yesterday I was in Parliament, and throughout
Please
the day,
speak up a bit for
throughout
us.
yesterday I was in Parliament. I got to Parliament around 9 a.m. expecting Ken Ofori-Atta to come to Parliament early. In fact, we waited till around 12:30 before he arrived in Parliament. I think you were here corresponding and you know what happened. And it was so sad, it was so embarrassing that in the history of Ghana, we've never and ever seen this kind of budget we've read yesterday. Rosalind, what was so surprising is that, let me just give you the background of what happened in Parliament yesterday before I'll give you the overview of what is read. We have witnessed budgets from President Kufuor's time, Balredu, those that don't have opportunity of going to Parliament. I was then in school. From Comrade Dufour, Sektekwe, now come to Sektekwe and to Ken Ofori-Atta. I have seen that any time I go to Parliament for a budget reading, the whole gallery is full, the whole Parliament is full. You will see international communities, our partners, donors, and our developmental partners in Parliament. You will also see one of the government dignitaries that will go. But yesterday, I can tell you that if you even check the attendance in Parliament yesterday, it was so embarrassing. I mean, you wouldn't even see military, interjoint military that was in Parliament yesterday. I was in Parliament. Your correspondent is there.
I saw the videos.
So you saw the video. You can call a correspondent to be third guest here. I was there as well. You could not see any of the chiefs. You didn't see any of the opposition leadership, like all the opposition parties were not present. You couldn't see any diplomatic partners. The only partnership that came was the joint military in West Africa that came. They were the only people that did. Recently, we've also witnessed budgets in this country where you see that president, the head of economic management team, the BOG, all representing Parliament, witnessing what is happening in Parliament. Because for the past 7 years, the 7 budgets we've read, I've always seen Dr. Alhaji Mahmoud Bawumia, the flag bearer and the leader of the NPP, who is the head of economic management team. And I always see Addison as well, who is the governor of Bank of Ghana, and who said the NDC leadership at Woodlands. So yesterday, as a budget, all these people abandoned Ken Ofori-Atta. Little did we know that Ken Ofori-Atta was waiting for them to come, and they will go early into Parliament, but they refused coming because they've seen the embarrassment of the economy, they've seen the shutting down of the economy.
Who told you?
Yes, why didn't they come? They've always been present, and it is the responsibility in the history of Ghana. Anytime a budget is read, you see a Bank of Ghana, a governor of Bank of Ghana in Parliament. It has always been happening. Yesterday, he couldn't appear. He couldn't appear.
Maybe
the vice president himself, who is the head of economic management team that we have been hailing in Parliament always, that I know most that I see in Parliament, taking the microphone and interviewing him and he's telling you about the economy in Parliament. Yesterday was nowhere to be found. They all abandoned Ken Ofori-Atta yesterday. Nobody want to appear. Nobody want to be seen in camera with the embarrassing economy. But also, all in all, what yesterday we saw is that the budget was read in Parliament. The government said they needed 226.7 billion Ghana cedi to spend for this year. And then it's amazing now. The policies and programs they brought yesterday. In fact, Rosalind, what if you can also care to know, yesterday, I wish you had been there. I know you're a very good movie director. Yesterday in Parliament was like a studio, like was a
movie
theater.
Director.
Yes.
Theater
Director. Yesterday was an example like a theater. Because one went there to see videos of lies, videos of projects that have been done by President John Dramani Mahama, and he projected the overview from 2020 to 2023, now going to 2024 economy that is going to run. And you could see clearly that the NPP and the government has constantly been lying to us to the extent that even in Parliament, when the Minister of Finance is reading the budget, he lied to Ghanaians projectively. Yesterday, if you recall, the Minister said every sector has been positively impacted. Every household has been positively impacted by the social interventions programs that they did. But also I know that the social intervention that I did in your village, if I didn't happen to stay in Bema camp, you didn't stay in Bofodu, or you didn't stay at Nyanini. But if you look at the people in the community today, you could see that they have not had any single impact of the policies and intervention they see.
Not even because, the free SHS?
I mean, I'm coming in there. And so you could see that I took a program because I saw the this program, the Youth Start program. And you could see that last year we give them over a 1 billion Ghana cedi for the program of Youth Start. Today the minister came to this and said that they've started with a pilot program with only 1 or 2 sites that have been done, and which is quite so embarrassing because an amount of money that were injected in the Youth Start last year. We didn't see any progressive measures in it. And another thing that the finance minister did that I was so shocked is that finance minister told us that they used 2.4 billion Ghana cedi for NAPCO program. Now, that's Nana Bawumia Company Limited that they did. And I've always told you that NAPCO was a program under the National Youth Employment Program, which was run by the National Youth Employment Program that was called graduate, that is internship program. That's a graduate internship. And then the policies and programs we put, that was paid internship model. The programs and policies that we put, even in their exit and insurance system, that we started with legacy capital. You could see that it was so productive, and most of the people were regulated in the mainstream. But 2.4 billion, and I can tell you that as I said 3 days before the budget was read, the how do you call it? The NAPCO Trainees Association issued a statement that they've not been paid since they started work. It's only about 6 or 7 months that they got their salary of 2 years, and they've been stuck to go home and sit. But the government spent a whooping amount of 2.4 billion into it.
So Richard, you're making a point, but will we agree that when we talk about the social intervention that he's saying that every home has benefited, maybe just a few homes have been benefited, but almost every home has benefited. We can count the free SHS as part of it.
NAPCO is a social intervention program.
It's a question. Why are we talking about NAPCO? We are not talking about free SHS.
No, I'll come there.
So can we say that one alone, we can say that at least majority...
What's your interest now?
You're
asking me to explain something, so why don't you allow me to flow? I'm your resource person, that's why I brought me here.
I asked the question.
I
need you to answer the question.
Yes.
Is the free SHS a social intervention program?
Absolutely, it's a social intervention program.
Will we agree that a lot of people have benefited from it?
Partially yes or no.
Okay.
Good.
We can continue.
So ask him to mention one social intervention.
NAPCO program is also a social intervention program, and then you could recall how building rules is also a social intervention program. You know that. Building of roads is a social intervention program. Rosen, do you agree with me? Government said it released by 6.3 billion on road for road sector. Rosen, we all know that about 75% of the contractors today cannot even go to site. If you go to the site, all roads they're fucked out, and nothing is going on. And if you release a whoop amount of 6.3 billion, who did you pay to? That's a palpable lie. They didn't do it. But also, doing an amazing thing when we were talking about their achievement for the partisan. Kenneth Furata projected Odomi Bridge, that it was one of the Volta Lake was one of the projects they did, and then the MPP. We also know that even Kwame Nkrumah's time, the Odomi Bridge was constructed. Recently, they even brought videos and did programs that President John Dramani Mahama has brought. Look, they were talking about Asim Prasu Road. So
the Adame Bridge to you was done by?
Those Kwame Nkrumah time. Yes, but they said they are the people who constructed it.
But have they done any renovations?
No, President John Dramani Mahama did the renovation for the power.
Okay, so that is it. Yeah, so they haven't touched it at all.
No. Rosalie, they were talking about Asim Prasu Road. Rosalie, we recall the Japan International Cooperation Agency gave President John Dramani Mahama $75 million to construct that road because of the bauxite and agricultural input there. And that road was 75% constructed before they came to power. Today, they use as one of the achievements. They went to talk about Pepesu Nkwanta Road, which is even my constituency. Pepesu Nkwanta Road was constructed by Canazwell. That was where the Ford Expedition allegation came in. And these people came and projected that it was the project that did. Personally, amazingly, they even used the Legon Hospital and some of the project President John Dramani Mahama, the port expansion, the Mpakadam railways and those things. So clearly they had nothing to offer us. They came out with an empty budget. And listen, the amazing thing that this government has technically and intelligently imposed a tax worth of 11 billion on Ghanaians. But Rosalie, if you look at what we are going to do, he knows we are going to run a healthy financial health economy by next of it, because we're going to have a budget deficit. Because where the loopholes in which we are, and the financial consumption that we don't have, he has not even given a clear indication of anything we're going to do. He sits here and talk about that there will be cola. Rosalind, cola. Cola is nothing new to Ghanaians. When you are giving me a cola, that's cost of living allowance, and my cedi to dollar is still appreciating. Then I go food inflation is rocketing to 60%, and then you come and add 20% of my cola. Meanwhile, my salary is 2,000. You're adding 200 Ghana cedi for me for cola, and then at the end of the day, that money cannot go to market and buy tomatoes. They impose, and what I got scared and I pray. And the people of Abosukai and Suami and Magazine and all those things, they have not make any provision for them, but rather trying to run down their business. They've given a waiver. This government has given a waiver.
Let me bring Richard.
This government has given a waiver for electronic cards to come to the system.
Yes.
But those Abosukai people that you were able to contribute money for you to win elections. What is the package for them? All
right, we'll talk about that. We'll talk about some of the things, the 10 key things that were mentioned in the budget. Maybe I should touch a bit on it before I go to Manasseh. So number one, construction of a general hospital. No, but he read it. You have it as well. Everybody has it, unless you are telling me that the budget is not open out there.
Your producer didn't give me.
You don't have this.
You said you read overnight.
But the production should feed you some information.
Hey, Richard.
It has a budget of a review, so I'm reviewing the budget.
Richard.
Number one, construction of La General Hospital. The hospital's funding will be secured through the national budget, with the contractor set to resume work next week. Number two, sanitary pad tax, zero VAT, that is zero VAT rate, and imports. Zero VAT rate and import duty waivers for raw materials of locally manufactured sanitary pads will be implemented. Number three, the Akosombo Dam spillage. Government has budgeted an amount of 220 million Ghana cedis to support the relief phase for the communities affected. Number four, African print industry. The zero rate of VAT on locally manufactured African prints will be extended for an additional 2 years, meaning that this is already there. Yeah. Number five, the night economy boost. A task force composed of public regulators and private sector actors has been established under a public-private partnership to enhance security and lighting infrastructure, driving the night economy initiative. Richard, what's funny?
They're trying to weave into our 24-hour economy.
Please. Number six, DDEP concluded. DDEP has been successfully concluded and steady progress is being made on external debt restructuring. Number seven, external sector outlook. The external sector's performance hinges on negotiations with external creditors, an IMF-supported program, cocoa syndication loan, continuation of gold for oil program, and mining inflows and second tranche of the IMF loan. Number eight, financial sector support. The 2024 budget allocates 4 billion Ghana cedis to address challenges in the financial sector, including the recapitalization of the National Investment Bank and distressed SDIs. Number nine, international funding support. Anticipation for the reflection of approximately $2 billion from the IMF/WB and cocoa syndication by year end. And the final one, which is number 10, expenditure surge. Total expenditure is projected to increase by 21.3 billion Ghana cedis. Manasseh Tabuahin, your general overview of the budget that was read yesterday.
Yeah, so Rosemary, a very good morning to you, a very good morning to Richard, and good morning to our cherished viewers. I mean, yesterday was an exciting day because when you consider the provisions made in the 2024 budget, you realize the government indeed is in touch with the reality of Ghanaians, and government, of course, responded to the critical demands that Ghanaians have been trumpeting over this period. I mean, key amongst them has to do with the Akosombo Dam spillage and the numerous concerns by Ghanaians as to how those who have been affected will be able to go back to their economic lives and livelihoods. And so it was instructive and very important for provision to be made by government through the minister responsible for finance to ensure that we are able to allocate some 220 million Ghana cedis to those who have been affected by the Akosombo Dam spillage. Again, the Ministry of Finance has been able to trigger some clauses by engaging the World Bank to ensure they are able to come to our aid, especially as it relates to the Akosombo Dam. And so it is refreshing. Government has been quite prompt to the needs of, these people. Again, a lot of people were raising concerns that it would be important for the La General Hospital to find expression in the 2024 budget. And government has made provision for that. We have already explained that government has secured some 50 million euros to ensure we are able to expedite works on the La General Hospital. But because of the needs of the people, it has become expedient on government to ensure we make provision for the building of this hospital. And so next week, as has been explained, the contractor will go back on site and government will expend on the project. Again,
if you don't mind me coming in, it seems like today I haven't greeted my viewers yet.
Oh, yeah.
Dear viewers, good morning to you. Please, we want to get interactive. We want to know your general impression on the budget that was read by the finance minister yesterday. So please send in your messages to us. We definitely would love to hear from you. We will read it on air. We'll mention your name as well. So let's get interactive because they watch as always. You know, whenever Richard comes here, he tells us that John Dramani Mahama is watching. So does Manasseh tell us that Dr. Mahmoud Baumia is watching as well. So please and please again, send your messages to us. They are reading, they are listening to us. So let's hear from you, your general overview of the budget, your impression, and what do you think should have been added or what do you think should be taken away? This morning somebody asked me if the road tolls are back and I said, well, the road tolls ain't back. The e-levy is still here. So we continue. Yes, but I say continue. Sorry about that.
Yes, indeed. Like I mentioned, I'm surprised Richard here, is mentioning certain things that are not factual. He explains that anytime a budget is read, you would find the vice president and the governor of the Bank of Ghana. That is not the case. And don't forget that these are persons who are very busy. Sometimes, if they are in country and they are free, they may accompany the finance minister to parliament. And if for nothing at all, they are not the ones who read the budget. What is important is for the finance minister, and even sometimes the finance minister himself might not be available. We are human. Sometimes you could be indisposed. And so what is important is for the budget to be read, alluding and ascribing all forms of negativity and just vain thoughts to the governor of the Bank of Ghana not being present and the vice president. I think they are uncalled for. And he was dwelling so much on the periphery. Explaining that government has been lying. They are shocked at the level of evidence we are able to produce. And indeed, when the finance minister explains that every sector of this economy and every household has benefited from the social intervention policies of government, he couldn't have said it any better. That is a factual statement because if for nothing at all, the doomsday that you crippled Ghanaians in, of which we do not have short memory and so we can never forget. This government has been able to ensure that we are being alleviated from the plight of doom. So, and today, because we have stable electricity, because we are keeping the lights on, because we are keeping the lights on, we've had a lot of businesses being sustained.
When it comes to doom,
and so that alone is a major intervention that would benefit every household in this country.
I get you, but I really wish that when it comes to this doom, so I've seen it being too political, I must say, and it's about time we actually don't use it in. You know why I say
something government has done.
This is why I say
we've managed to keep the lights on. We shouldn't use it.
No, this is why I say this.
Draw Ghanaians' attention to it.
The reason why I say this is because if my memory serves me right, I'm still 25 years. I won't take it away, but I remember very well that doomsday didn't start under the NDC. Dumsor started under the NPP, where we had we had President Kufuor. That is when we even had the yellow gallons, because there was shortage of water as well. Where we had the Kufuor gallons, we had electricity, we had the load shedding. I was on campus at that time. We saw it. Yes, under the NDC, it was.
Was it that worse under the NDC? Dumsor got to speak under NDC. That's what we are talking about.
We saw it happen. Then we saw the end of the year, or the tenor that the NDC was going out of power in 2016. We saw that Dumsor was being fixed. Now, we remember very well that currently the flag bearer of the NPP, that is Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia, did say that if MDC wants to use it as a campaign message, it is nothing, because they caused the problem, they've solved it. So if they are solving it, it's not a problem. So if we are saying this, then now, because we are in power, we are using Dumsor as a campaign message. I really wish we would rather look at things that no government has even tackled on, like things typical, a free SHS. It's something that I see it as one of the best social interventions that has ever happened in Ghana. Why do I say this? There are so many less privileged people out there who are benefiting from this. It might have its challenges yet, yes, but it is one of the best interventions, and we'll praise it no matter what. So if we talk about that, because this Dumsor back and forth, this person says I solved it, this person says you didn't solve it, this person says it wasn't under my government, this person says it was under my government. I mean, but let's move on, though.
So the point I am making is that this government has managed to keep the lights on. Indeed, Dumsor predates, the periods in which President Kufuor was the head of state. And under the NDC, especially under the former president, Dumsor was so heightened to the extent that the kind of implications, negative implications it had on our economy, businesses collapsing, people dying, and all of that was highly unprecedented. And that is what we are talking about. It took this government to ensure we are able to provide funding. You know, the main reason why NDC couldn't solve Dumsor, one has to do with that. Of course, they tried in bringing in more power badges, but that wasn't the main problem. Of course, you bring in more power badges, that is good. We need excess beyond what we will even need. And that even came at a cost to the country, and we are still paying for it. But they were unable to pay for the gas to fuel these power badges. That was the problem. And so it is this government that has been able to keep the lights on, and today we are all benefiting from this. That is one intervention. And you rightly mentioned the free SHS. When you mention free SHS, you find the NDC making a whole lot of noise about it. It is good that the government or the finance minister maintain that government will continue with this policy. Even the LEAP and the capitation grants, school feeding programs, and all of that. Whether we like it or not, there are a lot of beneficiaries, most people who under NDC couldn't afford secondary education. And so when he mentions that we have a lot more Ghanaians, or every household in Ghana is benefiting from interventions by government, that is indeed true. When you go to road infrastructure, you would find a lot. In fact, all the loans, all the resources government has been able to harness, we've invested them back into the lives of the Ghanaian people. And so it is very instructive for the finance minister to mention and to maintain that when it comes to investment, government has been very apt in ensuring that we invest back into the Ghanaian people.
Fantastic, Manasseh. I'll definitely come back to you. We are joined on Zoom by the economist, Dr. Daniel Amate Enim. Good morning, Doc.
Good morning.
How are you today?
By God's grace.
Great, and thank you so much for joining us. As an economist, we will need you to give us your general overview of the budget that was read yesterday, please.
Yeah, thank you very much. I think yesterday the Honorable Finance Minister, walked us through the macroeconomic performance for 2023. Some of the data he preferred to use June. I was expecting most of them as at September. So, for instance, overall GDP growth for 1.5, he put it as at June. One would have expected to see maybe after September to give us a very better understanding, but that is okay. But overall, it appears to be an improvement in our macroeconomic fundamentals or the environment. And once the macroeconomic environment is showing signs of recovery with a proper and appropriate strategy, we should be able to get there. So to me, overall assessment of his presentation, I think if the government should apply the kind of strategies and the policies outlined, then we should be able to sustain macroeconomic stability. That is first thing. But in respect of driving the private sector to be able to dictate the growth, I've not seen much in that particular direction. Maybe probably because of our relationship with the fund. That may account for that. But I've not seen any direct private sector-led strategy to be able to support the economy. Okay, but on the whole, some of the policies, the medium-term objective of government in terms of ensuring that we minimize budget expenditure, what it describes as expenditure rationalization, and also to beef up revenue. I think one of the things that cropped up in his presentation that to me, I'll give the government plus in that respect, have to do with the reduction of expenditure in terms of the target that they are outlined. And of course, as much as they minimize expenditure, which to me is a very good thing, and if we should continue same in next year, we should be able to minimize the fiscal gap. But one of the issues that is also clear, and then government has to do, it has to do with the beefing up domestic revenue mobilization. Of course, there's also another critical issue that the policies that the government has outlined for the fiscal year, even right from 2022 up to date, is still not showing a very significant, has to do with the manufacturing sector. It appears that the growth is being driven by agri and services, so manufacturing is still lagging behind. And if we want to industrialize the economy, if we really want to see the impact of 1D and 1F, by now we should be able to see positive growth in the manufacturing sector. Agri, yes, that is good, and government has outlined some of the policies to ensure that they beef up that particular strategy. So on the whole, I think, to my mind, I'm of the view that if the policies outlined in this budget should be strictly applied by government with a certain high standard of discipline, we should be able to obtain macroeconomic stability. Growth, not yet. Of course, if you look at the gaps in terms of how low we have sunk in terms of our macroeconomic fundamentals and the recovery, the recovery is, yes, it's happening, but it's quite slow, and it is too early, in my view, to start celebrating. We should be able to focus and ensure that we apply the appropriate policies and ensure that all the critical sectors of the economy are working. And to me, that is the way by which we can achieve most of these targets that the government have set for the fiscal year and even for the mid-term projections.
Okay.
So this is my initial observation.
Great. And Dr. Anim, for the layman out there, for the ordinary Ghanaian man, let's talk about what this means to that person. Can we explain a little bit more for those people?
Yeah, for the ordinary person, I mean, my aunties at Makola, my uncles who are into fishing and farming, this particular budget, let's take it those in the farmers. It appears that the government focus on ensuring that they beef up agriculture is of course, but the problem has to do with the disbursement of the funds to ensure that the policy, we anchor the policy. Let me put it that way. We are not still there. So to the local person, this budget will not immediately translate into improving your living standards and then beefing up your revenue or your incomes, so to speak. So, for example, our people in the informal sector, this is not a budget that is going to beef up your revenue generation. It is a budget meant to stabilize the macroeconomic fundamentals. So we may not feel the impact in our pockets immediately. Okay. We may not feel the impact in terms of our revenue generation. Those of us, those who are running businesses either in the informal sector or the formal sector. Because if you look at the craft of the fundamentals in the budget, the focus is to bring about macroeconomic stability and the kind of policies that we have, and then most of them are continuity. So we've not seen so much. It's not a policy that can really translate in improving or minimizing the living standard. So going into the fiscal year 2024, we shouldn't expect so much change in terms of improvement in the cost of living, in terms of changes in our income levels, and even as well as the job creation. So to an ordinary person, these are the realities that they'll be facing going into the fiscal year 2024.
But then we are going to have some stability in our city, if I should ask.
Yes, with the kind of policy which I believe strongly, if government should strictly adhere to, we're going to have an improvement in macroeconomic stability, which is very key. That is what immediately we need to be able to anchor the economy and then prepare growth. So we look into. So if you look at the behavior of inflation, of course, that's the reason why I'm of the view that some of the macroeconomic indicators should have been as of September to give us a better particulars and better explanation about the performance of the economy. But no problem at all. But if you look at inflation, we have seen a continuous reduction in inflation, and we hope that it will continue. More importantly, for this latter part of the year, which is the fourth quarter, because of the festive season, a lot of importation of Christmas products, etc. So we expect if inflation should maintain at the 35.2% or even less, then that will give us a very strong indication that the macroeconomic indicators are. But one of the things that in terms of the macroeconomic indicators have to do with cost of capital, which is still high. Okay, but of course, the city has also experienced a certain degree of stability against the dollar and then the euro. So it appears that our macroeconomic fundamentals is beginning to recover. So with the kind of policy outlined, I'm of the view that we may achieve economic stability. But in terms of propelling growth, that would translate into improving our living conditions, improving or in minimizing the cost of living. We are not yet there. And we shouldn't expect that the 2024 budget will enhance or improve our living standards or minimize the cost of living. I think we are far from that.
Wow. So now looking at this budget, of course, the layman watching us, they will say, okay, so this, I'm not really benefiting directly from what the economist is telling us. But then what actually duration should I look at to know that after these number of years, these structures that are being put in place, I will start benefiting as an individual?
To answer this question, let me walk us back to post-COVID, immediately after COVID, where all the macroeconomic indicators distorted. Growth was around 0.8%. And this is an economy that was growing around 7% before the peak of COVID. And most of the fundamentals, sank into an oblivion quickly. So the recovery is kind of gradual, and one would have expected that by now we should be able, but it's because of how deep the economy sank in terms of the weak fundamentals that cropped up as a result of the COVID-19 and then the global dynamics that impacted our local economy. So to me, one of the things that I think is quite working that government should focus on in terms of the implementation have to do for planning for food and job. If you recall, right from COVID up to now, we don't have so much issue in terms of food availability. In terms of prices, yes, the price of food items have gone up, but availability is quite good, even though we've been importing certain food from Mali and Niger, Burkina Faso, etc., which we need to focus because we have the competitive edge of producing. If that is done, what it means is that we may have full sustainability at the competitive prices, so that will be good for a layman. I think one of the things which has also helped, even though it has its own implications, have to do with the debt restructuring that the government has done. In a way, it led to the stability of the how do you call it? Giving the government the fiscal space to be able to actually bring about some of this macroeconomic indicators. IMF has also helped in terms of credibility for the economy and also beefing up our reserves. Because this is the nation that anytime the budget is read, even before COVID, we have almost 3.3 import cover reserves. And we are now hoping to achieve, somewhere about 1.7 of import quota by the end of fiscal year 2024. So that should tell you the gap. But of course, these things are peaking gradually, just like I indicated. It is not, it's not peaking at the rate where it will impact the living standard immediately of the ordinary Ghanaian, of the ordinary business person. So more ought to be done. The managers of the economy must focus on these kind of policies and ensure that they apply them strictly to be able to bring about the kind of recovery that is expected to propel growth. So these are the realities on the ground. So it is too early for the managers of the economy celebrating because we have seen some recovery in the macroeconomic fundamentals. Because if you look at the global dynamics and the predictions are the ever-evolving, unpredictable global dynamics, It's still having impact on our economies, like emerging economies like Ghana. We do not have much shocks to be able to withstand such global impact. So it is too early for us. So our focus should be how do we consolidate these macroeconomic gains that we are experiencing, and also springboard by ensuring that we anchor it to bring about growth that almost every Ghanaian, ordinary Ghanaian, anybody within the jurisdiction of this country would actually feel it and say, indeed, my government is really improving my life. So these are the realities that ought to be focused on.
Okay. The NDC actually is saying that it's an empty budget, but from what you're saying, it is not an empty budget, right?
Let me put it this way. It's not entirely an empty budget, because I've stated two things. In terms of bringing about macroeconomic stability, yes, the indicators, the keys, and the policies outlines will achieve that, to my mind. What is missing is about that deliberate policy to support the private sector is missing. So probably that is what they may consider and describe it as such, but it is not entirely an empty budget.
So it's half and half, is that what you're saying?
Yes, half and half. It's not entirely an empty budget, not at all.
Okay, but do you think with this kind of budget in 2025, we should see a better economy?
Please come again.
In 2025, should we expect a better economy with this budget?
Yes, that is when we achieve the macroeconomic stability for the fiscal year 2024. Then 2025, we should be able to devise growth strategies and policy, even though the minister has indicated that the implementation of certain growth strategies that they employ. But as it stands now, look, even the Youth Start program that has been announced for the past 3 years in almost all the budgets, the funds have not been released to be able to activate it. Just I indicated, at 1D1F, we need a lot of investment into that. Also planting for food and jobs. Okay, so these are policies that will propel growth, but it appears that we are not yet there. But I'm very optimistic that if we should have that fiscal discipline and we do not do budget overruns because of this next year's in our election year, then of course by 2025 fiscal year we should be able to start experiencing a very significant growth. But all that depends on how we manage the 2024. That is a caveat.
Dr. Daniel Anim, thank you so much for joining us this morning. We are very grateful.
Equally grateful.
Please have a good day. And Dr. Daniel Anim is the chief economist with PIED Ghana. Richard, you've heard what he said. He said it's a 50-50. It's not entirely empty.
Yeah, he is being technical. He doesn't want to embarrass the government and keep credibility.
He's an economist.
Yeah, so he made a point. You know, government is telling us it's moving from 219 billion from 2016 of our GDP to 1 trillion. In 2024, which, even if you look at the growth that will go to GDP is 1.7%, and it's expected to move into per the indications they give, which the figures are not accurate. It's expected to move up to 2.8. So when you move the growth to 2.8, what it's about productivity, as I was saying. So before you can move this growth GDP, and they can look at the production and the productivity of the economy. That is why they are telling us that they have about 217 or 219 of the 1D1F that is very operational now, and that employ about 10,000 youth, which is totally a lie. So because when the one factory is booming, look, a factory like Konfi has created direct and indirect jobs. Well, if you go to supermarket now, people are selling it at the production center. So when you are able to put in enough growth and then project it well, and the productivity is happening, it is then that you can make the growth. So even 1 trillion. Menasi knows of a population of about 3.5 million Ghanaians. It's not even enough for the sustainability of our economy.
That 1 trillion?
Yes, it's not enough for the productivity of our economy. Because, look, the factors they are talking about, the 1D1F, the one village, one dam, these are empirical productivity issues that will make sure your growth goes well. Because in that case, in that sector, the importation will be lower when we talk about food price and the consumption. And today, even in our buffer, we need to have a lot of buffer stacked in there. And even if you look at it, you are saying that you are moving this how they call it, international reserve. The NDC left international reserve about 9.6 million, 9.5 million. From 2020 by 2020, you depleted it by 6.2 million, and now as I'm talking to you, it's about 1.5 billion dollars that is reserved. All because of what? The lower productivity of it is the problem. because most attempts when the how do you call? I wanted to put in a context. So what it means is that when you have enough production, the food inflation will be lower. So now the inflation has dropped. The inflation has dropped a little bit, but the food inflation is still standing by. If you look at transport inflation, fuel inflation, all those things are still skyrocketing.
But
so when you put in a general food bucket,
what the economist is saying, he's saying that they are building the macro economy, meaning that it will definitely transcend.
Certainly, certainly. We all
into
know that,
the micro. It might take a little while, but it's still going to work.
It has been an argument I've also made here in this studio that when you don't build a macro economy, there will not be microeconomic standing. Exactly. Because it's been a very unstable equilibrium of economy. So in that case, when you are building a macro economy, you should look at the productivity and stabilization of the city. You understand? Now you tell us that the macro economy you're going to boost agriculture sector. You're going to give waiver to the agriculture inputs. Fine, it is a good idea. If you give a waiver for agriculture inputs, and now I still go and buy a tractor that I used to buy of a 15,000 now goes for 100,000 because of the instability of the city. But Ken Ofori told us that the city is well stabilized. So when I go to buy the chemicals that I'm going to use to spray my farm, the labor is higher compared to the city to dollar rate. How will I be stabilization of food price control?
Richard, we all heard Dr. Edim and what he said. He said that, and I asked the question, if this will help stabilize the city and strengthen it. And he said yes. This is what we are going to experience.
So how is it going to stabilize the city?
Because you build a macro economy and then it stabilizes the city.
That is why you are able to build your growth, making sure that your 1D, 1F is actively working.
Okay.
Your one village, one dam is actively working for immigration, this irrigation purposes. The Youth Start program that goes to technical and vocational aspect of it. So when you don't build this industry, your growth cannot be stabilization of the economy. That is why he clearly told you that it's not entirely that the cost of living will be entirely good for the ordinary person in this country. But Rosalind, he mentioned a general hospital issue here. That we were here when the president himself went to La and demolished this place. He was even a supervisor of the demolition. After that, he launched a program. We even brought the chiefs and elders of the people.
Next week. Yeah.
And then, look, Rosalind, the point is that you said you secure 50 million euro. And the sponsors are saying that because of the IMF conditionalities, they can no longer support the program, so they pull out with their finances. You are telling me starting next week with GOG, Government of Ghana funding. Rosalind, how long are we going to take Susu before we'll be able to contribute this program? And you should know that the NPP is not looking for the next 2 years, the next 3 years. They are just looking for the next 7 months to go and then start campaigning and leave this government. So that the budget is totally empty. There's no hope for this Ghanaian. Let me tell you what the Ken Ofori have done for this Ghanaian. Ken Ofori has been able to make sure that the private sector there will not be growth in the private sector because the budget has not favored the private sector entirely. But my mother is Mokola. My sister is
making sure
there is there's no allocation for them. It's so total and entirely decent. Rosalind, let me tell you what this is the government who has inherited 3 oil world in the oil economy. Previous government never got this opportunity. But look at the stabilization of the city now. And Ken Ofori comes to tell me that the city has been stabilized since 2020.
Oh, no, he didn't say that.
He said that there have been city.
He didn't say. Oh, he said that the city has stabilized since 2020. He actually said that he compared even 2023 to 2022. He did a comparison there.
And then he said that now there has been stabilization of the city.
Yeah, that's what he said. So as compared to last year, that's what he said. He said
as compared to previous government. That's the word they use.
Anyway, Manasseh, please come in.
Rosalind, it is very instructive, the explanations provided by the economist, and he explains that of course he agrees that the budget
to some extent
I'm trying to get what he said with regards to the stability of the city. I'm trying to get it and I'll read it as he said. Please continue, Manasseh.
Yes, and he explains that of course when you look at the dictates of the budget, it seeks to bring some more stability. It is refreshing indeed that government has implemented.
If you permit me to read.
That's fine.
This is what the finance minister said. The city has stabilized against the US dollar since early 2023 with a year-to-date cumulative depreciation of 25.7% compared to 54.1% over the same period in 2022. He never said 2020. Let me land. Yeah. Specifically, the city has only depreciated by 6.4% on cumulative basis since February 2023 compared to 53.9% over same period in 2022. Where's 2022?
No. So listen, this was the statement he made when in terms of the progressive or projection of 2024 economy. When you look at the overview of the budget,
Richard,
overview of the budget, you get a 4 years overview of the
you
budget.
make a statement.
Yes, no.
She goes back to provide evidence.
No, but
you are still going in circles.
It was actually in two sentences.
All right, let Manasseh make his point, please, Richard.
Yes.
Manasseh, please make your point.
On the cedi stability, it is very clear, even if we speak in nominal terms, which of course it isn't the best measure to even have conversations about, but for the ordinary person, we are aware that the dollar in November last year was 17 cedis for $1. And today it is around 11 cedis. Now, the explanation he gave was that when you look at January alone, January 2023, you realize that the rate of cedi depreciation was so high. But from February to date, when you look at the accumulative depreciation, it is so minimal. It's just 6.4%. And so we have seen some relative stability in the cedi. And that is clear, that is factual. Go to the Forex Bureau and the banks today and try to engage in some exchanges, and you would find what he is saying to be true. And so all these back and forth that Richard is saying is just untrue. I mean, I want to make the statement that when you look at this budget and the various tax relief that has been mentioned in it, it is so instructive and very refreshing. I mean, over the years, we've had a lot of complaints, I mean, on the table of government, that especially as it relates to sanitary pad, it is not fair for, taxes to be levied on them. And so government indeed has demonstrated high-level sensitivity by ensuring that as it relates to sanitary pads that are being manufactured locally, there are no taxes on them. And so we have zero-rated the VAT on the production of sanitary pads. But I mean, if you seek to import, we have local industries that are producing sanitary pads. And so if you seek to import, then of course you would have to pay the taxes so that will be able to protect the local industry that is producing these sanitary pads. Then again, as it relates to the African prints, we are aware that in 2021 and in 2022, there was a
sanitary pads that are being imported,
of course,
there'll be taxes on
certainly,
there.
Yeah.
But the sanitary pads made right here in Ghana,
yes,
there are no taxes. And if you have to buy 80 resources and import them and make them in Ghana, you don't pay taxes.
You have raw materials. Of course, that is excellent. Okay. And I want to mention that even in the recent outcry that had to do with the dialysis, treatment, there were a lot of concerns.
The Renal Center.
Yes, there were a lot of concerns by some private medical practitioners and even private hospitals that usually when they want to import medical equipment or even some medical consumables, the taxes on them are quite unbearable. And so it is refreshing today to know that government has again zero-rated taxes on medical consumables and even medical equipment. These are things that would benefit Ghanaians with no doubt. And so when we mentioned that this budget has been quite specific in addressing the critical needs of the Ghanaian people, it is very clear. Indeed, I was very interested.
Can I ask this one?
Sure.
The commercial buildings that the VAT has been, I don't know, we don't have it here, but he said it, the commercial buildings that they are scrapping VAT on there. What are commercial buildings? Because somebody asked me this question and I was like, I'll ask on air this morning.
So commercial buildings like this, like yours, we have buildings that are for residential purposes. Okay. We have all these skyscrapers that are for, commercial economic activities.
Are hotels part of commercial buildings?
Certainly. Good. Hotels are part.
Okay. So now hotels will have to now bring down their prices.
Of course, because you see, when you look at the kind of property rates or even the taxes they pay, they are quite high, and it feeds. So
it's VAT that has been wiped off commercial buildings, right?
Exactly.
VAT.
It feeds into the price of the services. Richard, I'm not done.
Let him make his point. You can write it down, so when we come
of course.
You can.
Now, you would find the economist explaining that it's important for government to anchor the significant gains we have made. And when you read the budget, you find that the finance minister reiterated the growth strategy, which is very, very important. We are well aware that now inflation is decelerating. But in order for us to make significant gains and to sustain the downward trend of inflation, it is very instructive and important for government to pay critical attention to agricultural sector. And that's what we are doing. We have launched the Planting for Food and Jobs Phase 2. It is ongoing. We have also launched the Youth in Agriculture and even the Economic Enclave projects. And so what government seeks to do is to provide a lot of funding to ensure that we are able to deepen agricultural production and productivity, so that if for nothing at all, when you consider the inflation basket, the food inflation component can be hugely controlled for. And we believe that if you're able to even reduce that from the current 44% to even the teens, inflation would also drive down to the teens. And so government is paying critical attention to that sector as well. And of course, when you look at the trade and industry sector, it is refreshing when you consider the significant gains.
The economist said that year on, we hear of this planting for food and jobs, we hear of these interventions, but it's just not being well implemented, and that is why we still have certain deficits. So if it's well implemented in 2024, yes, we will see some sort of, improvement. But it's all about implementation. Budgets is always being read, but the implementation is where the problem is. Because there's NAPCO where monies don't get released. We are hearing of use that will the money be released? Planting for food and jobs, will we see that growth in there?
Rosalind, I can assure you and our cherished viewers that when you look at the design of the Planting for Food and Jobs Phase 2, when you look at the design of the youth in agriculture, of which government is targeting 200,000 youth, and is even providing stipends for them, under which government is entrusting these youths into the care of aggregators who will ensure they are able to outsource for funding and also agricultural inputs. When you look at the design, the gains we would make is so huge that it will baffle everyone in the country. And we've begun the implementation of the PFJ Phase 2, and it is part of the reason. In fact, if you had time to listen to the government statistician, Professor Samuel Kobine, he mentioned that the main driver of the downward trend in inflation, especially as it relates to that of October, had to do with food inflation. And of course, we are making some significant gains in that regard. I am confident that given the kind of attention government is paying to the agriculture sector, if for nothing at all, we'll be able to ensure that we would have an all-round season in the production of most of the agricultural staples, and that alone will drive down the incidence of inflation.
Okay, let me take some comments. We have some comments that have come in. We do appreciate all of you, those of you who send in your comments all the time. We do appreciate it. So we'll read some comments and then we continue with the conversation. So right after the comment, Richard, I'll come to you for you to make the submission that you wanted to make. Good morning to you all. You are doing great. Please ask the NDC man that at their time, what increases they did even isn't anything difficult in their time. They rather cancel teachers training and nurses training allowance and HIS and what's this? Dumso, okay. Dumso and paying teachers 3 months and 3-2. Okay, that's difficult to read. Who does that? And you are there saying you don't know. Mahama be MP, Vice President, and President before, and he's coming to do again. Okay, greetings, Joy Prime. Is it not a shame for the NDC to say that the budget is an empty budget? Look at the MP for Medina, Honorable Sosu, stood in Parliament, including all NDC MPs, asking the government to remove taxes from sanitary pads because the government is a listening government. He has done it as requested, and yet you come back and tell Ghanaians that the budget is empty. So what it means is that all the minority MPs are empty. What kind of people have the NDC voted for then to represent them and Ghanaians as well? NDC never again, especially with John Mahama, Nana Aguna Swetru. Good morning, Rosalind. This NPP communicators and their cohorts should stop annoying we the workers of this country. Can the NPP communicator in your studio tell the people of Ghana the current inflation? How much is the salary as compared to the poor teacher? I'm mobilizing my students to vote against the cruelest government come 2024. I have to use my scanty salary as a teacher to buy a textbook to teach my students because of the change of curriculum for almost 4 years now. From Prosper Peki. Rosalind, tell the NPP man to stop misleading Ghanaians. Budget is just estimate, and mentioning figures on the floor of Parliament is one thing, and the ability to release funding for such projects is another. Was the construction of La Hospital not captured in the previous budget, and why was funds not released? From Prosper Peki. Abdul from Adabraka says, good morning to you all. Talking about Dumso, it's sickening listening to educated people who should know better, rather use politics to blind their faces. They made it look like we have stable power supply before John Mahama came to power, and out of mismanagement, Dumso became his creation. If NPP claim JDM did not solve Dumso, then let them take off Ameri, car power, and rest the and the rest. And let's see if we will not go back to doomsday and out of sustainable power supply. I'm still yet to see what this so-called useful government has done for Mother Ghana, if not total destruction of our economy. Only time will reveal your evil agenda. The times of ignorance is over, so there is no hiding place anymore. Assalamu alaikum, honorables. This budget is Yabre budget. It will never change the life of Ghanaians. Bye-bye budget, NPP never again. Achiasi constituency for Honorable Samuel Owusu Breku, NDC MP, NDC PC and JDM 24 Hours Economy 2024. Mohammed Zainul Abdin, Zongo Caucus, Achiasi constituency. Alaji Hamza Pig Farm, good morning, Rosalind. I was particularly happy to for the removal of taxes on sanitary pads. That was good to hear. And again, 220 million allocated for settlement of the people who suffered losses through the Akosombo Dam spillage. But I was expecting the government to do something about COVID tax and the E-levy, but failed to do so. Rosalind, this COVID tax should be channeled to help dialysis patients in Kolebu Hospital. Rosalind, I need direct answer from the NPP man. What was our pastors doing at the Akosombo? But President Mahama took it upon himself to solve the problem. So he should stop this act of always insulting the intelligence of Ghanaians and credit us with a little respect. This MPP man is annoying us this morning. If we cannot win the Galamsey war, how can we win a war with Burkina Faso? Are we a serious country at all? Patrick Accra. If you have no message, you play on people's emotions. Has Dr. Bawumia forgotten about his economic theories today? And he has to play the religious and ethnic cards. Shame. He wants to win an election and does not care if the country burns. Patrick Accra. Hi Rose, the following messages goes to the political spin doctors. He who justifies the wicked and he who condemns the righteous, both of them alike are an abomination to the Lord. Proverbs chapter 17 verse 15. I think I'll write this one down. Good morning to you. Kindly tell the NPP man that no Ghanaian is happy. What is the inflation today? He should stop putting dust into our eyes. Who doesn't know this government? This government will go around and take all the monies back through taxation. He shouldn't annoy us this morning. NPP is on their way to opposition. It pains me that I voted for this government in 2016 and 2020. Never again should I make such a mistake in my life. MPP is a deceitful. Good morning, Joy Prime. I'm watching live from Akomadan. Madam host, we expect you to be critical on issues NDC when they do something wrong, as you always do to the MPP. The NDC man said Ghana was locked down for many months and people were locked down at their farms, and your camera captured. Oh, but this is old. I actually told them that it wasn't true. We actually conducted this particular one. Well said, MPP issues. Please be fair in your criticism on both parties, because I have not seen you come to the defense of the NPP. Oh, on the budget yesterday, Mr. Blackwell first comment said it's empty and said so much about the budget. And in his last submission, he said he is applauding the government for the amount stated in the budget for the VRA spillage victims. NDC never again, because they don't have the country at heart. Hey, NDC, they say I don't criticize you.
What even criticizing me a lot? You even give Nancy a free range.
You don't want to be questioned.
Good morning. Number one, the budget solved the problem of our Ghanaian women by abolishing the sanitary pad tax. Two, continue the social interventions like LEAP, free SHS, school feeding, 1D, 1F, U-Start, youth in agriculture, etc. An increment of salary of the Ghanaian workers by 23 to 25% from the above mentioned social interventions will improve the living conditions of people of Ghana, and no doubt about it. I've already done this one. All right, so I've done this. So please, those of you at home who want to join the conversation, you can go ahead and join the conversation. Richard Manurubi.
You know the tactical way this government
But we are still receiving messages, so please send in your messages.
So Rosa, you know the tactical way this government has done. The government have...
oh, that's one, yeah. Hey, this one, let me read. Good morning, Joy Prime. Thank you, Rosalind, for making me understand that 2024 budget will not bring any good impact on my daily life. Oh, did I do that? Everybody should know me. Please, I didn't do
professor,
it.
No, the economist.
The economist is the one who said. But he didn't say like that. He said that maybe now, but the near future will feel it. So MPP should not make Ghanaians believe that everything is going to be fine 2024, while some people cannot feed themselves twice a day. Rosalind, Ekom the boy so smart inside Bogro Eastern region.
So the smartest way this government has been able to trick Ghanaians is that he tells you that he has scrapped the sanitary parts, waiver for sanitary parts and sanitary part related materials that we use for production. But it turns around to increase the tax stamp. Are you aware? Or tax stamps. Government has increased tax stamps. Are you aware? They have put another burden on Ghanaian. And the tax stamps are the stamps the Makola women use. Everybody now, anything you are buying or importing some things, you have to use the tax stamp, you pay more. So it's going to affect additional.
When did it get increased?
No, it's in the budget. There's an increment on tax stamps.
What's the percentage?
I don't know the percentage, but
Manasseh, what's the percentage?
I don't know. But who says that would affect sanitary?
No, that would affect services.
That's not part of it. It doesn't affect sanitary part.
No,
it will affect other things.
It will definitely affect goods and services.
Okay.
It's obvious. When tax stamps is increased, it's going to affect goods and services. When you go, prices of the goods and prices of goods will increase. Because the more you pay on your service, when you clear the goods, you need a tax stamp before it can be sold in the market. Or else the VRA will go and impound your goods. Okay, so if I now go and buy this, if you now give me a waiver of a sanitary part, and then I need a tax stamp to put on the sanitary part, and then in the market I sell it, so the price will not reduce. It's going to rather be increased. You understand? This government has put another 5% flat on VAT.
We have removed the 15%. Mention that.
But you put another additional 5%.
No, we have replaced the 15% with 5%. Why are you not being truthful? Why are you not being truthful, Richard? It used to be 15%. You've taken that off and it is 5%. And you are saying we have added additional 5%.
Let me come in.
Please.
What Richard is trying to say is that there is a 5%
flat rate. Yes.
It used to be 15%, but it wasn't a flat rate. So you can look at it in different ways. It could be beneficial, it could not be beneficial, because with that 15%, somebody was paying 1%, somebody was paying 10%, somebody was paying 15%.
Yes.
But this time round, those of you who had to pay 1% will still pay 5%. Those of you who had to pay 15% will pay 5%. So it's like this. Okay, so it's a win-lose, win-lose. So it's still good in a way.
There have been most of the taxes that have been imposed on ordinary guys intelligent and in a tactical way that an ordinary person will not know. So Rosalind, he tells us that, tell us that they have given waivers for agriculture input. And that's so scary. It is good agriculture input has always been a waiver, that in any case. But Rosalind, you should look at tax exemptions that you give to foreigners. Those are the things you do to cushion the revenue.
You people are the same people. You go to Parliament. Wait, Richard Manurubi, you go to Parliament. You ask for waiver on sanitary parts. It's done. You ask for waiver on agriculture stuff. It's done. Now you are changing your mouth to say that did this and did you.
So Rosalind, what we are saying is that what we're expecting is that the government of Ghana will have now we have a tax exemption bill that is laid in Parliament. We shall quickly pass that bill. A lot of money, about $25 billion a year, have been going to tax wavering. You understand? It's either you subsidize to a percent because we need enough revenue to cushion the economy. And so if you don't do that, Rosalind, that made another thing. He sat here and talked about agricultural growth. Look, in the agriculture sector, if you want to look at a total growth, you have to look at 3 crops, animals. And then you look at fishing industry, and that's what President Mahama did. And then our agriculture to GDP was 5% in the fishing industry. When you build an aquaculture industry, now aquaculture gives a lot of direct and indirect jobs, and it's sustainable on the premise. So what we did was that we built the fishing harbors and make sure that we supply enough premise to the fisher folks. So with that, we were able to get revenue of about $250 million per annum, and it was given $2 million from fishing industry alone, and that contributes 5% to agriculture GDP. So when you are not focusing on this kind of agriculture, you talk about rallying for food and jobs. Super idea that President John Dramani Mahama brought with the funds. Now phase 2, we are not even seeing the phase 1 input of it. So what we did was that we made sure that we built a buffer stock. We revamped the Ghana Buffer Stock Company Limited. Now we push a lot of revenue to Ministry of Youth and Agriculture. Then we bring the subsidy, the produce to you at your doorstep. You understand? So when you farm, at the end of the year, we come back to your doorstep, buy the products, give you the subsidy of it with a waiver, then you take part of it. Then government of Ghana now send the produce into our buffer. In the United States of America, as you are talking to, even their buffer can supply the United States of America for 33 years if there's any food crisis now. So government, if you don't put in enough buffer for your food stocks, you can never and ever control prices. You know when I could open a food factory at the Ministry of Agriculture recently when he brought foodstuffs and he was selling at the ministry.
He didn't open it.
He brought foodstuffs and was selling at the ministry.
The prices of food was high.
So he brought
food items that were cheaper.
When did he bring it?
Wherever he brought it, and he said people should come in.
So let me tell you what happened.
Hey, Richard,
let me tell you what happened. There were enough food in the bushes, but accessibility and transportation was higher.
So he did something.
And because the fuel prices, the fuel economy was so high, so the people couldn't bring their produce to the central market. So they were rather consuming themselves. So National Security came out with it that look, let us supply buses instead of you to subsidize and bring those buses, bring the food stuff to the market for ordinary person to buy. You brought it and sent it to the ministries. So they see you can control food prices when you have the buffer at hand. That's the point I'm trying to go.
All right.
So you made the budget very empty, and you come to sit here and talk about Donso, and then want to go about Donso issues.
I was very much happy when Ghanaians and some of our viewers were able to pinpoint the hypocrisy of the NDC. We saw placards. You would find an MP holding a placard saying that government should zero rate taxes on sanitary pads. Government does that, and yet they are saying the budget is empty. You would find an MP who had most of his constituents suffering because of the Akosombo Dam spillage. Government goes to their rescue, which is very typical of government. And yet he says the budget, he says government is yet to go.
Government is, and I say, if you say something
government
in the budget,
has, VRA provided, VRA has provided 10 million. A lot of the government agencies have provided to support those who suffer a lot. Government, the 220 million is a projection or is a provision that has been made for 2024 to ensure. But I'm saying that government has expended a lot on those who have suffered today.
How much?
And that is factual. Government,
a lot of how much the government spent.
Let me make a point, please.
I've mentioned that VRA alone provided 10 million Ghana cedis. There are a lot of government agencies, Ministry of Lands, Ministry of Agriculture, all the other ministries. Everybody are supported, and this is trite knowledge. What I'm saying is that you find an MP.
If you don't mind me asking you,
let me
asking you,
go ahead.
What kind of support have they given to them? One,
we saw government evacuating those who were suffering, and two, a lot of deliverables.
Evacuating to
a lot of deliverables have been provided to those
evacuating
who, of course,
where?
to save landing places. I mean,
like where?
Housing units, hotels, and other places. That has been the case.
Did you go there?
Yes, of course.
And you saw them in hotels?
I'm explaining.
I went to Mepe. I'll let you learn. But I went to Mepe, and what you're saying is a little bit dicey. You are telling me that people were taken to hotels?
I am saying government had to evacuate them to safe places.
And
it could be anywhere.
It
could be churches, wherever. The bottom line is that government has secured them.
Most of them were sleeping in classrooms.
And now government is making provision for them to ensure that now that the water levels are subsiding, we'll be able to restore them back to their economic livelihoods. And that's what government is doing. You find an MP saying the budget is empty, and yet he appreciates government for the efforts government is putting in place. So he tells you the hypocritical nature of the NDC. As for us in government, what we seek to do is to address the critical needs of the Ghanaian people. That's how come the La General Hospital found expression in the 2024 budget. That's how come government had to make provision for the Akosombo Dam spillage. You sit here, you talk about beaches and all of that. When you couldn't build even one landing beach. Even one landing, go and check. We have built over 15. One landing beach you couldn't build.
What are you saying?
You could not build, and yet you talk about fishing and those things. What government is doing,
15 landing
of course, is to ensure that we have a lot more macroeconomic stability. We are very much particular about that. Of course, we'll have our differences because there's nothing good that government to do that the NDC would appreciate because they seek to win power. So that is very much understandable. But government is so much focused to ensure that the significant gains we are making in our economy today, of which we are seeing a deflation in the rate of at which prices do increase and also stability in our local currency. We want to expedite these efforts to ensure that going into the end of the year and even in next year, we would see high levels of economic growth. We will see high levels of cedi stability and we will see unprecedented levels of inflation. That's what we seek to do. And the measures we are putting in place, the measures are beginning to yield results. The monetary policy tightening regime of the Bank of Ghana is yielding a lot of results. Same for the other interventions government is implementing. All these significant gains we are making in our macro economy isn't by magic. It is because of deliberate policies government is implementing. And we are very much aware that even before we end Q1 next year, we will be surprised at the rate of development we will experience in Ghana, and the NDC will be shocked because with this we will be able to sustain our gains, and that is what will help us to break the 8.
Okay.
Rosalind,
all right, let me read this message and I come to you. Good morning to you all. You're doing great. Please ask the NDC man that their time, what increases did they even... What increases they did even isn't anything difficult in their time. They rather cancel teach. Oh, I think I've read this one already. So let's continue.
No, you didn't read it. Please read it.
I've read it. I have.
I didn't hear you read it.
I've read it.
Please read it.
I've read it. Let's continue.
You didn't.
This is what I was really. I said I thought yes. I couldn't even continue. You've forgotten?
Rosalind, are you sure you read this?
Oh, I have. Good morning, Rosalind. How can anybody call out NPP for hardship and desire to vote for Mahama, a man who plunged the country into doomsday for 4 years, a man who couldn't take care of students at the north, a man who made teachers teach for 3 years and only pay 3 months? What magic wand has ex-President Mahama received from opposition to now do some magic to change my life? Besides, people talk as if elections are going to be held tomorrow. The NDC are just a bunch of jokes. David Obriyabwa Dome Kwabenya. Thank you, David. Madam Host, I'm shocked to hear you say the NDC solved doomsday. Question: why did Dr. Kwabena Donko resign from Ajenim Boateng Dome Pillar 2? Ajenim, they were solving this doomsday thing is not just one government that has solved it. If only they will refrain from politics when it comes to doomsday, it will help. Good morning, Joy Prime. It's instructive to know that the budget which was presented yesterday is hollow and empty. What kind of hopeless budget is that? We are not going to make any mistake that we did in 2016 and 2020 by voting for this deceitful government. Please, gentlemen, I'm reading my messages. Thank you. They are just amassing wealth for themselves. Our roads are very, very bad. They don't care about the ordinary Ghanaian because they drive in V8 and auxiliary vehicles. A vote for MPP is a vote for Nana Dankwa, Ken Ofori-Atta, and family and friends. All right, you at home can also send in your message. I think we have just about a minute to go, so just a minute. Richard, just 1 minute.
Yeah, so just 1 minute. Actually,
go.
My brother Manasseh sat here and tell us that the government has impacted, have done a lot in Akosombo spillage, and then they went and rescue people and sent them to Movenpick and Kempinski hotels for them to sleep. Which, if you go there today,
you find these hotels in
but they said they are in hotels, Volta Hotel, Africo Hotel, and those people that people were sent
to
us. Okay, so which of the hotels was which of the hotel was that? So,
Richard, have just a minute because we all know that they were not sent to hotels.
Yes,
that we know.
But he said government spoke to them. There was financial release for them for hotel.
Nobody went to hotel.
So they should go for their hotel money.
Nobody went. They were in classrooms and somewhere in tents.
So Rosalind, I want to pinpoint that we are very sorry for Ghanaians of the most hardship that is going to happen. But Rosalind, we're going to run a budget deficit next year because there will not be a lot of mass revenue to cushion this economy. And to all, this budget was a bye-bye budget. It was a last coffin for us to be buried, the MPP. It was a budget of no hope. It's a budget that will lead Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia and the MPP into opposition. I wish and pray that by January 2025, after Independence Square, the following day 8, Manasseh will sit here, he's an opposition member, and you call me a government member. We have hope for this country. A 24-hour economy is going to build and robust the economy, agriculture sector. We're going to industrialize agriculture sector and make the Ghana work again. Going forward, we want to say that Manasseh has done a lot for speaking and giving a financial indication. It's an expert. He can use the juicy word, but an ordinary person don't and the other place knows the state of our economy
Manasseh,
today.
please.
And there's no need he talks again.
Roslyn, is it not preposterous for you to find? Is it not preposterous for you to find someone who wasn't able to keep the lights on for 24 hours?
Hold on.
Thank you so much, gentlemen, for being here.
Keep the lights for 24 hours.
Richard Manurubi and Manasseh Atabuahe. Thank you very much, gentlemen.